Thank you so much for joining Music Forward for our industry session today on the creative process with a special focus on the female experience. My name is Meleni Smith, and I will be moderating this, in my opinion, very important conversation. Music Forward Foundation is a national nonprofit organization inside the House of Blues and Live Nation family, and our mission is to transform young lives, inspire careers, and champion a more inclusive industry. We provide artist development and career development programs for youth to inspire the next generation of leaders and innovators. So we welcome all the young people in our audience today here to learn from this diverse group of artists. A little bit of housekeeping before we get started. We encourage you to ask questions to the panelists. Just enter your questions in the Q&A box on the screen, and you'll be choosing from that box to get them answered during this session. At the end of the session, you will be prompted to complete a survey where we'd love to get your feedback and learn more about your interests to plan future sessions. Please enter your email so you can stay up to date with all of our very cool upcoming opportunities. Now, in the wake of the 100-year anniversary of the 19th Amendment granting women the right to vote, we want to celebrate this necessary progress while also not being ignorant to the fact that it did not include all women, and that it took many more years before women of all backgrounds were given a voice in the political process in America. So in the spirit of creating spaces for all voices, I would love this conversation to cover our unique and shared experiences as women, particularly while navigating the music industry. So that being said, let's meet our lovely panelists. Hi ladies.
Oh, what's up?
How you doing? I would love for each of you to introduce yourself, as said, and just tell us a little bit about how you chose to get into music. We could start with Farah.
My name is Farah Fox. I'm an artist, songwriter, and creative director. I would say I chose music as my medium of expression very young, just very young. And I would say what I love about music is just that it is an honest release for me. Just through the process of creation, I think I learned myself truly. And I think it is the greatest connector that we have. And I think it's very important, and it needs to be protected.
Indeed, indeed. Nylo, how about you?
I'm Nylo, from Chicago. I live in Los Angeles, coming here from my mama's house right now. And I got exposed to music and the love of music really early. I think it started with my grandmother. And it's interesting because she would never consider herself a musician, but she had a really tough life, and her marriage was really difficult, and I didn't see her with a lot of joy. And then there was one time when out of nowhere she played the piano, and I watched her transform. And I think in that moment I was a different person, and I think I never lost that realization that music can change people and change a moment like that. And I couldn't find anything more powerful, and I never have since. So I've dedicated the rest of my life kind of to that love. Music is really important, and I totally second that it should be protected, and we should do everything we can to protect the creators of it too, because more and more that is lower and lower on the priority list, and a lot of things are being looked out for, but not the creators. So thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. And last but not least, the lovely Eena.
Hi, I'm Eena. I'm a singer-songwriter, and I was exposed to music at a really young age. Wasn't from my parents, because none of them are they're not musicians. I mean, my dad did listen to a lot of rock. That's how I know all the rock style. And then my mom was more into soul and pop. So I just kind of got that, and then I joined a music school, and from there I built myself, and then I joined a band. And then from there, I was just okay, yeah, this is exactly what I'm going to do with my life. Especially because when I would create my music, it gave me a reason to, or a chance to really express my emotions without saying it, more so just to sing it, you know? And
yeah.
It has changed my life a lot, and for the better as well. So, yeah.
And also, Eena is one of our music forward artists, so shout out to, to that fact. Lovely to have your voice as a part of this conversation. I think what is singular with all of your answers is just the love of the craft, the love of the art, the love of the impact that it has. And I think that's what draws every creator their medium. But our industry is very unique, and we're just going to unpack some of the statistics before we really get into these conversations. So according to a Forbes article written in 2019, only 21.7% of artists who put out the top 700 songs since 2012 were female. Among the 1,455 artists studied, there's a gender ratio of 4.8 male artists to every female artist. But the disparity between representation on the stage and behind the scenes is stark, to say the least. Only 4 of 871 producers were women of color. Out of 400 songs and 871 producers, only 2% were female. The gender ratio of male producers to female producers is 47-1. So we're all artists, we're all female artists, and I just want the audience listening to that to really understand what that means. What that means is when we go into these spaces, large in part, we're the only females in these spaces. We're the only females creating in these spaces. So I would love to hear from you guys sort of like what impact that has had on your creative process, if any. We can start with you, Nylo.
With me?
Yeah.
It's interesting because I hear those statistics and it kind of blows my mind because in a lot of ways, it's not been my experience. I have always gravitated towards female creators and been able to align with and find women in music from the very beginning, I think. And that's been sort of a saving grace. But when I look back, I think there's also just the reality that I'm a little bit blind to the fact that I've been the only woman in a lot of rooms too. And I've never worked with a female producer, which is interesting. But I think there's so much to be said, and I know we're going to cover some of this later, but I've always produced my own music, and I felt like totally unaware of the fact that that was uncommon, and I felt that that was, in a way, one of the things that helped me push forward is because I just wasn't aware of the fact that it was rare, or the limitations, or the different ways that other people might have seen that or viewed it in a negative light. I don't know. Right. But it's definitely important to continue to push women into those roles because it's a different experience to be in a room where you are totally safe in that regard. And a lot of times it's like a 17-year-old songwriter who's a female who's just getting her foot into the door, and a man who's been in the industry for years and years and years. And there is a different power dynamic there. And I definitely know that in my own experience, I would constantly defer to them as the expert, and in a lot of ways I knew I was right, and I've been right in different ways and learning more. I think time just gives you the ability to trust your own instincts more and more, and I should just want to put that out there, that you should trust your own instincts and you are right. And people work with young artists, men and women alike, because of the fact that they have new ideas and they're fresh, and that's an empowering thing that I think people aren't even aware of. You always think oh, I'm just lucky to be here, but the thing is they're lucky to have you, and and they know it. So I don't know, that was a lot of mixed directional comments.
No.
But
no.
But,
I mean, one question I have is what sparked you to want to produce your own music? Was it inspired by somebody, or? Yeah.
Necessity. I wanted to make records that sounded like the ones I was hearing on the radio, and I couldn't do it with a piano, and I didn't know anybody that produced. So my goal 100% was to just get enough money to get an Apple computer so I could use GarageBand. This was a while ago. And I just thought, if I can get GarageBand, then I can program the drums, and that's what I did. And it was honestly the most freeing experience to take these songs from piano and start putting grooves inside of them and having full arrangements. And of course everything I made at that age was 10 minutes long, and these big huge cinematic things, and strings that come flying through, and I really felt like I was God of my own world, and that was the only place where I had control. And it was really magic, because I could speak and be in headphones and speak loudly and no one could turn it down,
Right.
So necessity drives a lot of innovation, I think. I wanted it to sound a certain way, and I didn't know how else to do it, so I just learned.
What were you going to say, Farah?
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off either.
No, you didn't.
No. Piggybacking off your first question with the numbers, I would say it's ridiculous, one, to recognize and realize how women don't even make up a recognizable fragment of the general population of creators that are recognized in this industry. But especially when you realize this industry is geared towards the female consumer. Everything is towards what women and young girls would want or what they're told to like. So you have an industry of men telling women how to see themselves and what is sexy and what they should be buying and what they should put their focus in, you know, and I think that's dangerous.
Yeah.
It's dangerous.
Yeah, to go back off, like, to make it back off of that, I feel like they try to, like, make it seem like for women to make it in the industry, yeah, what you said, like, about being sexy, they want to tell girls how to, like, really, like, express themselves, but in a sexy manner. That way they get more attention from it, which is very wrong, and I think that's one thing that should really change in this industry.
Has that been proven over and over again to be wrong?
Right. Oh, definitely. Billie Eilish, I feel like she's a prime example right now of she's completely destroyed that entire concept. How does this translate within the creative space? Has there ever been, like, I know for me, there have been times where I've been in sessions and, you know, it's assumed, the assumption of who you are in the room is not automatically in a space of respect. It's like, before I figure out if you're supposed to be here, that's when I'll, you know, regard you as such. But I didn't necessarily see that from the males in the room. Like, I feel like with women, I don't want to project, but my own experience at times has been that women have to sort of prove their worth in the room more than maybe like a male. You know, you assume the male might be the producer before it's like, oh, why can't the woman be the producer? Has that ever happened to any of you guys?
I call them out every
Sorry.
We're both passionate, like I'll say call them out every time. I call them out every time. And I also notice in a room, whenever a new person will walk into the room, they'll shake every man's hand, but they won't greet me at all, as if I'm like, what, the girlfriend or somebody?
Exactly.
I call that out as soon as I see it.
What does that look like?
That's just, it could be me just saying, oh, hi, I didn't meet. Or I'll actually call out the action and be like, oh, you don't greet women? You know, I'll say that. But it took years of me recognizing that, one, to just be tired of it and to be comfortable enough to speak up on it. But
because it happens so much that you just get used to the fact that it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. It's expected, unfortunately.
Or for me, I don't want to be the angry Black woman, or I don't want to make this working environment uncomfortable, or I don't want to hurt somebody's ego, or whatever it is. I was always just putting something else first than just my recognition as a being here. I didn't force myself in this room. A lot of times I'm asked, I worked, whatever the situation is. However I got there, I worked to be there. And, but like you said, so piggybacking off Nylo, who seems to be a backslasher and just an all-around creator, I'm a writer, I'm an artist, and I am an engineer as well. And I've been engineering for over 10 years, and every time it's a surprise. Every single time, I'm like, oh no, you should comp this. Oh no, you should slide that. Oh no, we should TCE this. We should do whatever it is, it's a surprise. And I'm just like, how?
And it's pushed back on, I gotta say. And I don't know what it would be like for a young male artist in that situation. Maybe it would be easier, but it's definitely, I run into this problem with engineering more than anything else, because nobody wants to trust that I know what I'm doing when it comes to Pro Tools or when it comes to Logic. I run into it more than any other avenue in live music, where the guys who are, and I say guys because it's 99% men who are the house engineers, the men assume that when there's a problem to be troubleshooted, it's mine. because I'm a woman and I don't know what I'm doing. And I've seen when I start to set
Wow.
up my rig, they look to everybody else. They'll look to the man who's a TM, the man who's, if that, just a tour manager, just in case. I realize some people don't know what that is. But they'll look to the tour manager and look to everybody else around the manager, besides the one person running the audio for the show, to be like, will you help her? Will you fix her shit? And I literally built my live rig so specifically so that I could troubleshoot and there was like a live redundant rig so that I can troubleshoot exactly what I'm sending to the house in my headphones before. So if I can hear it, I know that my rig is set up correctly. So as soon as I set up and I know that my work is done and it's not coming through the house or there's some kind of area of issue, every time they fight me on it. And they're like, well, let me know when you're sending audio. And I'm like, I'm sending you audio now. You need to fix your shit. And then I have to go through this process of, I'm not a house engineer. I don't exactly know what they do, but then I had to learn what areas they need to troubleshoot, because I had to make suggestions to get to the end of the problem, because they weren't going to be willing to take into account that they may have made a mistake. It was always the girl on stage that must have made a mistake.
Right.
Damn, I just threw you guys off.
That's all good.
In a rage, no. But so I gotta say, that has been a problem that has been maddening. And it never occurs to me that it's a sexist thing until afterwards. Somebody will have to be like, oh yeah, that was 100% what that was.
They just assume that women gravitate towards just like singing and stuff.
Women are singers, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's
they don't like, and then
we're
there's
that too.
not much like programs to teach women like, oh, you guys can also be engineers and producers and like so much more. They just think you see just singer.
This is a random interjection that I'll just say, but one thing that I think may help this narrative in the future is I never introduce myself as a female producer or a female engineer. I always just say I'm a producer and engineer. There's no qualification to it. I produce and I engineer. And I think that that is something that as soon as the word woman is put in front of that word, then there's some kind of like a category that's different, where it's, oh, this is a producer, but it's a female one. No, there's no separate category. Production is production.
Right.
Just a theory, but something I'm
trying to work on. That's so true. I think that just for me, one of the overarching points of this conversation is that, again, because this space is so unprotected, it's not the same as a corporate space where if you're sexually harassed, you can go to HR, or if you're in a precarious situation, there's somebody that you can go to and sort of seek some type of repercussion. So for the artists that are listening who may have never been in that situation or have been and didn't know what to do, what is some advice that you can give them to how to sort of navigate through that scenario? You can just kind of hop on, whoever wants to answer first.
Leave. Just leave.
Towards the scenario of inappropriateness, or
say that again?
You're saying navigate. What is advice we can give to navigate through a scenario?
Yeah, like say you're in a session, because these sessions, you get called to do sessions, and again, a lot of times you can be the only female in that situation, and these are people you don't know, but you're in this vulnerable space because sometimes there might be alcohol, there might be, you know what I mean? This is for over 21, obviously. This is the audience. This is for the artists that are in the beginning of their career to know what may some advice that you could give them to empower themselves so that they know what to.
Said for me personally, it took me realizing this in hindsight, like growing up, coming into like self-awareness and midst of my adulthood, to recognize that I created a defense mechanism early by kind of like, if you can't beat them, join them. Meaning I became aggressive. I became a boyish energy. And I remember having a conversation with a friend of mine who was an artist, a prominent artist, and it was another woman in the room sharing her experience, which was a sad experience in the studio. And I was like, I personally haven't had those experiences. And my male artist friend had said, it's because you carry yourself like a man.
Wow.
And I realized, and I couldn't argue that, and I realized I developed a kind of, I don't know, repellent in just my approach and in my demeanor and my just how I carry conversations. And because I've been in the studio young, since high school, like 14. My mother started dropping me off at the studio because she knew what I wanted to do. And it was always boys, people I felt comfortable with, but it was still like, I see how they treat women that don't do this, you know, don't even do music or are in these closed off rooms with them. How can I, you know, just not be, I don't know what to say, a target, I guess. It's
right.
a way to realize it. So I wouldn't even say that's advice, because I've been having to pull my feminism back.
You had to
my femininity.
Right. Suppress, you know, that.
Yeah. So I wouldn't recommend that, but I'm just saying, like, in hindsight, I had to realize, like, okay, I walk in rooms and dap men up. You know?
Just so they know what's up.
When I walk in, and I'm aggressive and I'm loud and I'm vocal, because I don't want to be shy and seen as somebody can get away with something on. And because there are no repercussions, as you say, it's very hard to find repercussions.
Right.
I feel like what also, like, men are, like, really, like, timid of in women is confidence. So if you, like, go in there and, like, still, like, yeah, like, I'm that bee, you know, like, having that confidence, like, they're gonna be like, oh, like, damn, you know. I feel like that's also, like, a big factor that can.
Perfect way to put it.
Talk to us about that, because you're a female in an all male band. Where you're no longer together. But talk to us a little bit about maybe that approach, that experience that you had.
Well, necessarily, I didn't really have, like, any, like, bad experiences, but it was more like it was them that overpowered me in situations. Like, with, like, music writing and everything, we always talked about leaning more towards, like, a softer, but, like, keeping that rock. But they would always say, oh, like, punk, metal. So we would always, like, clash on those ideas and everything. And I'm like, I can have a voice in this too, like, just because like that was my first thing in my music. Like, that's what I first did. Like, just because I don't have much experience and stuff does not mean, like, I don't know what I'm doing. So like, they would always just, like, ignore my ideas and just be like, yeah, whatever, blah, blah, blah. She doesn't know much, and overpower me in so many ways. So that was, like, my experience in that.
Is that what led to the breakup?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now I feel more free and, like, I can do my own thing. Obviously, like, I went from rock all the way to just, like, popish, you know.
And so moving forward, so your career, like, you're going to be a solo artist now. Would you ever, do you think, join a band under those same circumstances, or do you feel like that's shifted you in another direction?
Like, moving from the band to, like, solo?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it, in a way, it did shift. Like, it just opened up my eyes a lot more. Like, I have so much more opportunities like this, you know? Like, music forward has given me, like, a lot of opportunities, and that's one thing that was like, oh man, like, being a solo artist can help in so many ways and help me reach where I want to be.
Right. What about you, Nylo?
Farrah blew my mind, because I was just like, oh my God, I 100% did that. And then I spent the rest of my 20s trying to figure out how to become a woman. It's like this really interesting thing. I presented myself as much with a masculine energy and, like, a neutral energy that I could in all the studio sessions, because I wanted to make sure that I wasn't of interest to anybody like that. And it was just, like, a process of trying to be like, I'm one of you, and then there's women, you know what I mean? And it was something I didn't do consciously, but put it together afterwards, and then, like, slowly became more and more comfortable and, like, excited to be part of my own feminine energy. And that was a transition for sure. And it obviously helps with just, like, time and age and all these things that I thought, like, no, I got my shit together. I don't need, like, time doesn't help me in any possible way. I know everything I need to know right now. But then you just see life kind of takes it softens you in ways. And then on that same note, there's something to be said about not every woman is going to go into a studio and present with male energy to be safe or comfortable. And I don't think you have to, but in order to sort of blend those two worlds, what I think is really helpful is being really black and white. I think women have the beautiful feminine quality of a lot of times being kind of like soft in their words and diplomatic in their words, but some men don't respond to that. And I think it's important to know that you can just outright say in a black and white way, I'm not interested in anything but work, and I'm not going to change my mind. And I want to make that really clear. And if that's not cool for you, then that's okay. And there's a million producers in the world. That one is not going to change your life if he's not willing to work on your terms, if he's not willing to honor and respect you as the artist that you are. So I just I think it's difficult to do, but it shows really great results. And I've maintained friendships for years based off of like introductions like that, where I started getting the vibe that maybe somebody was interested in something that I wasn't into. And just outright in a way that if it was me on the other end, I would have been so insulted. But they were just like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, so sweet, yeah. Nice. And then most of the time it's fine. Then you just work and everything's comfortable. And rare occasions, somebody's like, cool, well, that's not what I'm here for. And then you don't want them anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very important.
Yeah.
So.
What do you think are some of the biggest challenges? I mean, we stated a lot of problems, right, that are ongoing. Being solution based, I guess, like what are the challenges to coming to finding the solutions to these issues? Do you find?
Can I say something actually about that? I have a friend who's a booking agent, and he booked for years the Lyric in Los Angeles, which was like one of my favorite venues, and they always played the most amazing artists. They like played Anderson, Pac first, and all these different people started there. Anyway, as a booker, he was talking to me and he was like, there's something that I've noticed with women, and it really kind of bumps me out because I don't see it with men. When I have a female headliner and I want to put female artists as their opening act, I get denied 9 times out of 10. Really? Women will ask me not to put women artists in front of them, and men would never do that and never have. And just to throw that out there, I think a lot of women don't necessarily know, but there's a difference in the way that women approach women and the way that men approach men. And I hope that we can kind of take note and shift that and become way more supportive. And it's happening, it totally is happening, but there's still a lot of this kind of what seems like there's just room for one, and there's not. There's room for everyone, and one person's success is not taking success out of your life, out of your pocket. It's not like it doesn't work that way. And you build up other people and they build you up, and that's part of how things get really, really fun. And that's definitely how I've seen my life in music work, is that like the closer that I've gotten and the better friends that I've created in the world, like the better work that we make when we work together. And just let go of whatever that is, that impulse to be like, no, women are your friends, and that's how men work, and that's how we should work.
Amen to that. Amen to that. Anyone want to add to that?
I think she said it all.
Drop the mic. Any other solution? That is a great, I mean, I think there is something to be said about that. I think in my own experience, I think I've been fortunate enough to not really have it from I have a very supportive core group of women artists, but yeah, I definitely have seen that out there. I definitely think that is a gem. Does anybody else want to contribute maybe another solution-based contribution to the conversation? Or should we pivot? Let's pivot. I know, Farah, we spoke a little bit over text, and last night when we were talking about how the approach to this conversation, you said something very interesting that I would love to bring to the conversation. You said, I've never really fully identified myself as a woman solely, but more so as a Black woman. And could you just elaborate on sort of what you meant by that?
Yeah, and I brought that comment up because I knew today we were going to be discussing resources and, like the last question, solutions. And for me, I don't think I've ever been in the mind space of looking for resources as a woman in the industry. And I think my approach, even piggybacking off of what I said, my approach and my defense mechanism was to just be tough, you know, not even think about who do I tell or whatever. And I think that just comes from not looking for an ally in a lot of situations, you know, or expecting to be rescued in a lot of situations. And I think that just comes from the Black part of my being, you know, being a Black woman is just just to do. And I know it's a lot of unfortunate scenarios that can happen in any moment and any time, especially within this industry that I've chosen, but even outside of this industry that I've chosen. You know, I feel like those watching and viewing and looking for ways and solutions to scenarios they'll be approached with can take whatever they gain from these conversations and apply it to life in general, because whether it's in the studio or whether it's on a subway car in a grocery store, somebody's always gonna test you, you know? But I feel that, I mean, I feel constantly tested, you know? So I've never gotten the chance to just look and sit down and think, okay, am I tested because I'm a woman or am I tested because of this, that, and the third? You know, it's just constantly feeling at war and just constantly needing to do the things to keep going.
Yeah. I think Black women sit in a very interesting position because, like you said, we are sort of the feminist movement, you know, with celebrating the 19th Amendment, we uncover that didn't really include everyone. And then civil rights, we have our own. I even just thinking of just putting pop culture into it, the Meg Thee Stallion situation, and how there's been this outcry of how, you know, she was protecting this person, but then she didn't feel protected, and how that sort of blew up in everyone's face. And like, I think there's something to be said. When you sent me that text, I was like, wow, like, I think that's a situation that a lot of us find ourselves in, where we're sort of in between these two groups that were both simultaneously fighting for the equal rights for. So I just thought that was interesting, and I just appreciate you know, your contribution to the conversation and you having brought that to the forefront. But yeah, did you want to add to that?
No, I was just saying,
yeah. What are certain things that again we can do to just push this forward, push the agenda, push the equality agenda forward? What can we do as individuals to sort of ensure that this next generation of artists are greeted with more protection in these spaces? You know, what can we do to empower ourselves, and what do you think society can do to empower artists and young people in general?
I think I have an idea.
Yeah.
I think one thing that I think all artists should know how to do, which has been incredibly empowering and enabling, is to, in a basic way, engineer and record yourself. That just opens up a lot of room for you to take control of your own sound and take control in studio sessions where sometimes you're gonna have to lead because no one else is. And it's been really helpful, and it's not hard, okay? It might be a learning curve and it might look a little bit different, but like if you can operate a cell phone, you can record yourself. Not to say that you should record yourself on a cell phone, but like it's the same type of interface, you know? You got to figure out where the mic is, figure out where the mic goes, make sure that the mic is on, you've got adequate levels, learn a simple compression setup, and boom, you can have a like competitive sounding record, and you can record it in your bedroom, and you can record anywhere. And you know, there's been sessions too where I've been working with another producer and I just hated the way I sounded, and I wouldn't have been able to get it right if I couldn't get it right by doing it, you know what I mean? Because asking them for this kind of reverb or asking them for whatever wasn't getting it there. So I think collaboration is unbelievably important, and every time you work with somebody, there's a chance that you can get better and learn more, but you shouldn't have to. You should be able to do it on your own. And there's going to be times when you need to turn something around quick, and and you don't have time and you don't have the money to book a studio, book an engineer, book a producer or whatever. So learn how to record yourself. There's more than enough information on YouTube. You can learn for free. You can probably figure out how to get the software for greatly reduced price, maybe if you're a student or if you have a friend. Share the activation with somebody, buy it together and split it 2 ways. Like they usually have 2 different installs, Logic and other ones. And yeah, that right there will put you in a category that separates you from a lot of people, gives you a lot of opportunity, and gives you a lot of advantage.
Nice. Yeah. You said, is that how you learned? It was off of YouTube essentially, or?
Yeah.
That's what you would,
yeah.
What about you, Farah?
No, I agree with Nylo. I mean, ways to push the needle towards change, towards equality.
I guess more so individual. What could you do as an individual? I mean, obviously you can't change society in one, but I think, what do you do? What are some of the things you sort of commit yourself to? I guess might be a better way to ask that question. I guess.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, honestly. I've taken the path that Nylo just suggested. For me, it was eliminating the middleman to have more of a even playing field when I walk in the room.
Yeah.
That was the path I took as well. And that is what I would encourage. But outside of just encouraging it to just have more of a voice in these rooms, just be a better, more powerful creator, and just to be able to fully articulate your ideas and your thoughts and in creation. But yeah, I 100% agree with Nylo.
What about you, Eena? Do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think I agree with what Nylo said about like just doing things on your own and really like learning. That way you have more freedom in what you do and not being controlled by, if you were to get it produced, not being controlled by that, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Here's a cool question. Actually, not sure if we've gotten any questions from the chat, but what is one question you wish one young woman would ask you, and how would you answer? You can start with Nylo.
Trying to think about it. I think what a lot of people ask is, how do I get a record deal? How do I get a publishing deal? How do I get my song to Beyonce? And I think all those questions are the wrong question. I think that it's exciting to focus on the end goal, but it's practical and effective to focus on today and where you're at today and getting where you're at today to the next level. And I'm saying this even to my younger self, because like I didn't really recognize that artists are going to grow and come up together. I wanted to get my songs to the best people at the beginning.
Yeah.
And then a lot of the people that I worked with at those times, give it like 2 years, they're topping the charts. And
wow.
I like, that's just the nature of life. Like, we are not static beings. We're going to grow. And if you do it right, you'll grow together, and you'll grow with the people that you want to and the people that see in alignment with you. So just, I guess, don't get stuck in the future. Don't like look at the finish line and forget the steps that it takes every day, because it's an everyday thing. You get up and you go and you write, and then that there's beauty in that, and there's like presence in that, and it's definitely like a more alive existence than like waiting for the big publishing deal. Make songs with your friends that you love. Make songs with people you have access to that you love. The internet is a resource that like is pretty much unlimited in what you can do. You can reach anybody, and most people, when they get the little notification that they've got a DM, they're gonna fucking read that shit, and they want to know what's up. And if you go in there and you're like, and you say, hey, this is what I can offer, like, you want to do something, you just might get a response.
Yeah, like going off of what she said about like it's the process. Like it all takes time, and you just have to work for it. Like as much as you want it, you got to work for it harder and harder each day. Like I get asked the question a lot, like, what inspires you? And I think that's like a good question to ask rather than, oh, like, how do you do this? Like, you know what I mean? Because I feel that's where I started, with an inspiration. Like I wanted to like give back to my family and help out. And that's what really like made me want to like work harder and harder. And I noticed right away, like me still being young, I've noticed right away that it's not gonna happen fast. Like you're not just gonna go from one day to putting out a song to the next day, like, oh, I'm already up there, you know, top charts and stuff. It all takes time and it's a process. And as long as you're willing to work through that process and give it your all, then you're going in the right direction.
It happens slower and faster than you ever think it will.
Yeah.
At the same time.
But it's all worth it in the end.
Yeah.
I think for me to answer this question, I'm gonna take Nylo's approach of it as if I'm talking to my younger self. And I would say, do what feels right over do what works. And I think for being an artist that's a woman, there's a formula for what is marketed the most and what gets the biggest budgets, and it's always rooted in sex, right?
Yes.
And that was never a priority in how I personally would have chosen to give my art. But I've gone through phases in my career where I've tried to fit the formula of what works for a woman, especially being a Black woman in rap. It's leotards, it's you know, it's at one point it was male magazine covers, you know, and that was all part of my growth. Like I felt there were times early in my career where I did things because I felt it would work being a woman in rap music, even though it was never what was what I felt would have been natural in giving my art to the world or sharing my art to the world. So I would say do what feels right over doing what works.
Trust in your intuition.
I love that.
Yeah.
When Nylo was saying,
That's the best advice right there, is just trust your intuition. Because you know more than you think you know every time. And also just it gives like the benefit of the doubt to the audience that they know too, that if you are who you are, that alone will be beautiful. But if you're trying to be someone who you're not, it just, even if you're great at being someone you're not, it won't line up in that same way that people are intuitive enough to see through it. So just don't even bother wasting your time if it's not right.
Very true. I had to look at, like Eena was talking about what inspires you. I had to look at the things that inspired me and the artists that inspired me. And I realized a lot of it had to do with innovation. And that's, you know, innovation is what? Something that we can't put a finger to before. Like we can't see where they've drawn from, and we can't say this is done before and before and before. And just recognizing that. Like,
can you tell us a little bit about some of the artists that inspired you? I'd love to hear from all of you some of the women that have inspired you and through your art and overall, really, as well. Farah.
Limiting it to women?
Yeah, or not.
Okay. Because I would say a huge inspiration right now is just Frank Ocean.
Okay.
Frank Ocean, but my list of inspirations grow over time. But at the beginning of me deciding to make music, it was Lauryn Hill and only Lauryn Hill. Just in how she took her vulnerability and you know, just made it a strength.
Yeah.
So yeah, that I would just say Lauryn Hill, honestly, because I don't know what I would be doing if it was Lauryn Hill.
I think my biggest inspirations throughout music, Meleni Martinez, like that was my girl right there. All through middle school, like that's my girl, you know. And just like her creativity with everything. Like she recently put out an album with a movie, and that movie was like just everything she like does, and it took like 3 years just to put that album out. And it was just so beautiful, and like the way she like speaks her mind through her music is just like on a whole nother level. Like in a couple, like in the song, she talks about like women being like objectified and stuff like that. She talks about like just like big problems, like big world problems, and like that's like my number one inspiration. And yeah.
Oh wow, I gotta check her out.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Nylo?
Oh shit, Lauryn Hill, yeah. I was like, yeah, I mean, as far as women are concerned, she's like the top, I think, just because she too knew exactly what she was doing. I mean, in a way that was so exciting because there was this confidence in her about music and what she wanted her directions, and she could guide people. I mean, I've heard stories about her that are insane. Being a musician in her band was like just like nuts, where they were expected to be able to at any point in time, depending on the hand signature or the like hand gesture that she made, switch the song into the style that she wanted at that moment, which kept people on their greatness at all times. They needed to be ready and prepared. And like the fact is that she was that great, and she wanted the people around her to step up and be that great too. I'm not saying that would have been easy, but it's a testament to how deeply involved in her own art and spirit that she is. And she just put words together, and with that voice, like, oh my God. And Sister Act, I mean, didn't hurt. But Lauryn Hill, and then I definitely have there was more male influences that changed different courses, which made me want to be a producer, but it was because of the fact that they were more visible. I don't really have a lot of female producers that I'm aware of outside of The Machine, from Florence and the Machine.
Right.
There's more and more now, and it's super exciting because the generation that's coming up in music now didn't have that same idea that women didn't produce.
Yeah.
That I feel like I grew up with, which was being a producer as a woman was like this unusual thing, whereas now it's just like, yeah, why wouldn't you produce?
It's being more and more normalized, but it still is like most of the sessions are still not.
It's being more normalized, but then when you gave me those numbers, I was like, what? It's being more normalized because there's 18% of 100. Like that's still like, whoa, it's bad.
Yeah.
But all the more reason to do it. It shouldn't be something people are timid about getting into, because women and men are both very capable of producing. It's not a gender specific
and I
thing.
think it's necessary to have that vision, you know, that sonic vision as part of the sonic conversation, the landscape of just music. Like the fact that we're not represented in something that's so timeless is kind of scary. So hopefully, there'll be more. Go ahead.
It's important to know what you're looking at too, because you will inevitably become that. So be really careful where your eyes go, and guide them in places that you feel you want. So if you want to be a female producer, find a female producer and watch and look and observe, because you do, just like naturally being a human, soak it up and become more and more of what you see. That's something too I've learned over time, just to be aware of how empathic a lot of creators and artists are, and that we are super sensitive to our surroundings. And that's not necessarily something that, it could be a gift. It doesn't have to be a bad thing.
Right.
So I'm just being more and more careful to put people around me that I'm okay with becoming, and
I love that.
Being aware of that.
See, I would you brought up mentorship, like, or just looking for people who are already occupying the space that, you know, you would want to occupy. I would say the Grammys has been doing a good job of creating platforms from Linda Perry to Diane Warren, and they're doing a series of interviews. I know Alicia Keys has actually been spearheading it. I've gone to a few of the panels and events out here in LA, but just actually shining light and bringing focus to the women, the legendary women that have been within music, and offering a shared space with upcoming creators and songwriters on the rise. I think one platform is called 7%, or 7% test or something. I'm sorry, I'll find it and put it in the chat. But it's based around women creators make up 7% of the music industry.
Right.
Another thing, Alicia Keys has an initiative that she paired with the Grammys to do. I'll find the name of that, but I just saw that these are resources that I couldn't think of when you asked the question, that are, just
thank you.
Yeah, that are just
Reboot
and providing platforms for women.
There's another one too. There's Reboot, which is really great. They're having conversations before coronavirus. It was like monthly, And I mean, it was the coolest thing because you'd go and it'd be packed full of women doing what you're doing, writing, being an artist, producing, whatever. It was literally just like going to summer camp, man. It was like everybody there was a woman and they were in charge of their own life and career and doing awesome stuff. And the conversations were good. I actually learned a lot. And so Reboot is a great resource. There's also, what's it called? She Writes? Do you know what I'm talking about?
She Writes?
Yeah, is that what it's called? There's like 2 or 3 big time initiatives that are based in Los Angeles that are podcasting and stuff like that are specifically women in music that are really good resources, and I would recommend them to anyone. So
She Is the Music.
She Is the Music.
Yeah.
That one.
That's the Alicia Keys one I was talking about.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
The other one is called 7%.
Cool.
We just covered Superwoman for our Rock the Vote initiative, all female. Eena was a part of that. So shout out to our artist Music Forward for creating an awesome video, using Superwoman by Alicia Keys. I would love to just you guys to give one piece of advice to your younger self. I know we asked the question to your younger self, but what would you tell your younger self, knowing what you know now? What's a nugget or 2 that you would give your younger selves if you had the opportunity?
To make your voice louder.
What does that mean?
I think it was circumstances. I think Nylo or Eena mentioned it earlier, just being in situations where you know you were right, but you had to go and, Nylo mentioned, you know you're right, but you have to go research somebody else's job just so you can provide tactical evidence as to why you're right. But, but intuition is enough, to know at that point. But yeah, just to make your voice louder, it was a lot of times that I went through the rigmarole and the circus and just doing things that I knew from the beginning didn't fit me, but just to not be difficult. I feel like I've spent a lot of time just trying not to be difficult. But I could have saved a lot of time, a lot of faith, a lot of energy, and just remained true from the beginning if I had just, projected from the beginning.
Wow. What I would say to my younger self is just be confident with yourself, and I know as like corny it is, like don't give up, because there was plenty of times where I'm like, okay, like this is getting kind of boring, like nothing's happening. And another thing is trust the process and be patient, because it's gonna come eventually. Like comparing to like how when I started off to where I am now, like I made music, and like that's enough. Like that's like a big step. And yeah, like I would just tell myself, like, don't give up, trust the process, and
yeah. How about you, Nylo, last but not least?
This is my message to the workaholics in the house. There's this narrative that runs around that says you have to give up everything and you have to sacrifice it all and you have to be miserable and you have to work 17,000 hours a day and then you can't go out and you can't do this and you can't do that. You don't have to do it that way. That is one path. And I wouldn't even say it's the most efficient path. I think you should always remember to fill the well and put things in your life that make your life right now great, because that mentality just keeps setting the joy in your life at a distant location. When you hit some goal or you hit some achievement, then you get your Grammy and then you'll relax, but you're never going to relax when you get your Grammy. Then you're going to book 90,000 more sessions, and then you're going to want 2 Grammys, and then you're going to want that top 10 to be at #1, and then you die. Like, let me just tell you, like, there's no thing in the future that's going to make right now any better than you can make right now. So I applaud anyone who has a work ethic, because we do stuff that we love, but there is a risk that you might lose the love for the music if you don't forget to cherish it and love the moment that you're in. And we're artists. Our life is what we speak on, so don't give up your life to be an artist. Have a life and be an artist, and you can do both. And that is the best advice I could have given myself at a younger age, and I wish I could have taken it. I wouldn't have. I would have been like, nah. Nah, you can do that, but I'm going to work 10 more hours tonight, because if I work 10 more hours tonight, then that person over there that worked 8 hours is a disadvantage to me, and I'm going to get the job, and I'm going to get the gig, and I'm going to get the song. And then, like, I just woke up one day and I was like, why do I feel so dead inside? And it took, like, then I had to unpack that, and trust me, it took more time to unpack that than it would have taken if I just allowed myself time to live.
Wow, that part.
So that's my advice.
You better write that down, y'all. That is some good advice, seriously. Before we get out of here, I would love to have you guys share some of what you may be working on, what's coming up, what's next for you guys. You guys are all amazing artists. Make sure you guys check out their stuff. I will, you guys can actually drop your handles and all of that, and then sort of just give an idea of what you guys are working on, what we can expect from each of you.
I actually have a music video coming very soon for my new song Time that dropped. Woo! And yeah.
Yay! where can we find you? What's your Insta?
Yeah, I'll drop my Insta in the chat. It's
okay.
Oh yeah, I spelled that so wrong.
Just drop it in the chat. What about you, Farah? What do you got going on?
Just wrote the new single for this K-pop artist named Boa.
That's nice.
Yeah, and
that's huge.
A record on the new soundtrack for Unplugged on Uncorked, on Netflix. And,
yes.
And the project that's on the way, COVID dependent, you know.
Oh wow.
For that, but yeah, man, just creating.
That's awesome.
That's
and
good.
Where can everyone find you?
Oh, I will type it, but my name right here is pretty much all my handles with an @ in front of it.
Awesome. And what about you, Nylo?
I have been, my handle is Love Nylo, pretty much everywhere I think. So there's that. And then I just finished a project that's going to come out soon, which is super exciting. I did a song for Sony's 360 audio project, where they took a song and then mixed it in 360 degrees. And this project is special because it's the first time where I think you can use normal headphones and have a 360 sound experience. So that's been kind of wild.
What? That's crazy.
Yeah, and it's been like super cool because part of what they wanted to do was actually highlight musicians, and they came to me more as like a live player producer, and then I was kind of just creating this idea and they loved it, and I ended up getting to like write and produce and sing on it, and then get to include all these badass players, all of which are women, by the way. So that'll be coming out soon. I've been writing a lot more music because it's been a transition that COVID has brought me back into my bedroom producer phase instead of touring and working for other people. So I've been putting out a lot of music this year. I put out an EP about a month or two ago, and then another song after that, and some music videos that I made on the way. Oh, actually, this is the last thing. This was really fun. Music videos has been something that I have never decided to do until COVID, and I think that's what like a little bit of boredom will do for you. But so I had to drive 2,000 miles or something to see my mom, because I was afraid to fly. She had a surgery recently, and I just didn't want to risk it. So I thought, okay, well, I guess I'm gonna drive, which I would normally never do. But I made a video along the way, and I'll get to share that soon. Yeah,
that is so cool.
Fun.
That is so cool. We will make sure to check that out. Really looking forward to that. That's awesome. And I just want to thank everyone again for being here, for being a part of this conversation. Your input, your insight is awesome, and we're happy to share it with our young people. And thank you everyone for being here, all the audience. For all you in the audience, Music Forward will be taking a little break for 2 weeks and coming back stronger than ever with our new day and time, Tuesdays at 3 p.m. PST. To hear more about what is coming this fall, tune into our town hall that is happening right now. Link in chat. Marco, drop the link. All right. Thank you guys. Thank you so much. Link drop, D. Link drop. That was supposed to be his cue.
I dropped it.
Oh, you did? I'm sorry, I didn't see it. All right, cool. All right, thank you so much, ladies. We'll see you soon. Thanks again. Peace.
Thank you. Bye, ladies.
Bye.